So we are officially getting started then for week 2, and this is lecture 2 of week 2, and again this is from the information, where is this from? This is from, I should have this bookmarked, I was just there a few minutes ago. This is from Managing Innovations Lectures, number 2. So I think you'll find today's lecture a bit interesting. It's more of the business side of anything. Last time it was more information systems oriented. Today we're a little bit more, still talking about globalization, but still talking a little bit more about information systems, but also bringing in technology and the concept of competitive forces and competitive advantages. So if you haven't ever had a Management 101 course, you'll learn a little bit as well today about managing technology, in terms of technology management. In the old days, they used to call this field technology management, actually. Now they call it engineering management. Not very much of a difference. So fueling globalization through information systems, and the global economic player is the field is being leveled. Well, the field is being leveled because of globalization, is what this is alluding to. And globalization is giving us ability to be more competitive, not only with talents from different countries, but from resources from different areas and different skill sets, which is actually kind of interesting. So that's another one of the themes for today. So looking at defining, again, looking at this globalization concept that I sort of got into last time as well, in terms of a generic description of it. Evolving through describing emerging technologies, focusing right now on describing the key drivers of globalization. So at least we'll get some perspective in terms of why we're heading this route. So it's created a new world characterized by worldwide communication, collaboration without barriers. All right, so if you were to go, ask, the person on the street, you go out and you ask people questions on the street, and you hold a microphone up to them and say, well, why are we so global today? First number one answer is probably going to be the internet, because we have the internet. But it's kind of like the chicken before the egg kind of scenario. Did we have globalization before the internet, or did we have internet because of globalization? Or, which one came first? Did we want to talk to everybody else? And then we developed the internet, or did we develop the internet and then we decided we want to talk to everybody else in the world? There's always been a driving factor for globalization. However, it's never been as easy as it is now. So right now you could be what I call mama papa, like a business for yourself. One person, two people. You can open up if you rent an apartment that has a garage, buy some products, stick it in the garage, and go on the internet, go on eBay, and you could be a global, worldwide organization, distributor of something, whatever you have in your garage, essentially. Or in fact, you don't even have to put it in your garage. You can drop ship it. So there's a ton of people that do this, actually. You think they're big businesses, but it's one or two people who are doing a small-time kind of personal business kind of thing, where they're like multi-million-dollar worldwide distributors of electronic components, or they are third-party manufacturers, or let's say maybe they even do outsourcing, which is kind of interesting, actually. And why is all that stuff possible? Because of the internet, generally. I mean, the internet has done a lot to help and promote this, but it's more than just the internet. There's also this kind of goal to become more global. Have we outgrown the United States? I don't know. How do you outgrow a country? Which is kind of an interesting case. It's not that we have outgrown the United States. It's that we've grown past its limitations. So there's some things that the U.S. does well. There's some things that other countries do better, and vice versa. So this kind of concept that one country is better than another is kind of gone on the wayside. It's not necessarily the theme these days. Instead, what you need to do is take advantage of what you've got available to you. Classic example, toy manufacturing. So there's a couple big toy companies, 1950s, Mattel is one of them, actually. The one that I'm familiar with is Mattel. But long story short, we used to make toys in the U.S. Like warehouses. This is kind of like the NUMMI plant when we used to make cars in the U.S. We actually had a car manufacturer out here in Fremont, NUMMI. No more, but we used to. Where we assembled product and made product here. Problem is, toys were very expensive, and only one or two companies made toys. And so then, and there was like maybe two companies, I think, total in the 1960s, 70s out here in the United States that made toys. Toys are a huge industry, by the way. So Just like cars are a huge industry as well. But long story short, we discovered that in order to make toys cheap enough so that newer people can get into the market, to have more competition, to have more growth in the industry, we needed to think past the U.S., think past limitations of U.S. labor, manufacturing efforts and stuff. So anyway, a lot of people started experimenting with overseas in the beginning. You know, this is about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Now everything, you can't do it in the U.S. anymore. It's just not feasible. You can't sell a product. You can't sell a product like a toy that's made in the U.S. You can't do it. So most of it's made in Asia somewhere, or it's made in a Chinese factory over in Shenzhen or something. And you've got assembly lines that are putting together stuff and shipping it back. So product is generally also accumulated elsewhere because it's cheaper. Most of our wood comes from Canada. Most of our plastics come from China. Most of molding companies, electronic components, all from China. Most of them. A lot of software development, and you're in India, of course. You should know that. Engineering, software development, programming, all done in India. Makes major jobs. So that's why, because we can't do it here? No, we can do it here. But the globalization has made it possible so that certain areas can specialize in certain skills and certain things, and we can bring it all together. So as an engineering manager, you have to be global. You can't think just the US. It doesn't work anymore. So you can't be competitive. You can't do anything with it. I mean, so long story short, we were global before the internet. So the internet has helped us become a lot more global. But we still needed to be global because the U.S. does not have the core competency of everything. We're very entrepreneurial here, and there's a lot of business here. But a lot of the product and a lot of labor is done elsewhere, actually. So it's kind of interesting how that's working out, especially in the area of engineering, technology. So we got globalization 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. You've been staring at the slide here. It only goes back to about the year 2000. We're already in 2013. So what are we on? 4, 5, 6? That doesn't even merit even putting it on a slide, actually. So up to about to 2000 is when we started, everything, the de facto standard started right here. So this is supposed to be a rabbit here, small size world, medium size world. Now I got a tiny size world, which means the world's getting smaller. What does that mean? It means the distances between us is smaller. So we can go and having something manufactured in China or built in India is no big deal. It's a telephone call away. It's not as big as it used to be. So the world's gotten smaller, actually. So we have a very small, tiny world. You have to think global. There's no more barriers between the different areas. So in terms of this evolution, we started out mainly in European countries that were globalized. And the power is the primary driver. And then the industries changed. Slow pace of change happened. Things went a little bit further past Europe. So most of the Asian countries. So as we can all kind of conceptualize that. I've actually talked to about 3 of these slides, so I'm going to kind of thumb through the pictures for you. We can also think about the concept, in fact, this is actually something that's changed recently with gas prices, but the reduction in the transportation costs and the telecommunication costs. So around 1996-ish or so, about 1996 I believe is or 94, 96, don't quote me on that. Somewhere between 94 and 1996 we had the deregulation of the telecommunications industry in the US, which opened up the market, made it cheaper. Before it was all regulated by the government, now it's regulated by a private party. So government still has some control over it. There's still taxes and things that go interstate and out of state, but or out of country. But long story short, it reduced the cost of the telecommunications, put the burden of supporting it and enhancing it onto the consumer market, but it opened it up, which was good for the world in general. So we have that reduction in transportation and telecommunication costs. And then again, mainly Europe and America involved with that in terms of the start of it. As it evolved through to the 3.0 era, now we have individuals and smaller groups that are globalizing. So going back to what I started out this lecture with, the example of Mama Papa. And they used to call them Mama Papas. Now they're big old corporations. But Mama Papas was, like a couple. They went and they sold stuff at a garage sale, or they opened up a fruit stand, or they did, a small business. It was a mom and pop shop. I call them mama papas. Anyway, it's slang for something. Slang for small. Now that's gone away a little bit because now you could be two people, you could be one person, and you could be a multi-million-dollar business competing with Apple or something overnight, essentially. I mean, it's the opportunity is unlimited in terms of the concept because of the globalization. So it's much faster as well. So we have faster pace of change, emerging new industries, new technologies. A lot of it is technology driven. If you look over here, we go from the boat to the train to the fiber optics, essentially in terms of the way that the pictures are moving here. A lot of it has been technology oriented in terms of emerging technologies. So this is, the world is flat with 10 enablers, and we have these key factors of the enablers, and there's a lot of history, and I'm not going to go through the entire globalization. If you want to take an international business course, this is what they talk about all the time. So some of you guys who are MBA people, take international business. Then you'll learn all the theories about all the different globalizations and all the trends and all that. I'm not really much of a business person. However, I can appreciate the need to discuss globalization, especially in engineering management, because it's the world we're living in. You know, it's defining the economy that you're working in. It's everything is global from a particular standpoint. So I'm going to kind of skip through some of these slides here. There's 52 of them in here. Don't worry, I'll have enough to talk about today. But these are going to be some examples in terms of. All right, let me go back through. I'll hit a couple of these little slides here just as examples. They're going through different scenarios in terms of enablers, and these are the 10 enablers or the 10 key factors enabling globalization. So these were the 10 key factors. When they say enablers, it means promoters or creators. Enablers are the creators. The fall of the Berlin Wall. So we had some international events that occurred outside of the internet. Let's just say, you know, if we wanted to broaden our horizons a little bit and consider factors outside of technology, we had some economical and some international events. The Berlin Wall fall was pretty significant in terms of opening up the European markets, actually. So that happened in November 9th, 1989. Don't need to know that for this class, but it doesn't really matter. Fall of communism, former governments, more freedom. More freedom gives you more international, more globalization. Enabler number 2, going back to the internet, it wasn't until 1995 that we had that first killer app out there, which was the Netscape web browser. Could you imagine what would have happened if we didn't have a browser, net browser, you know? Is Netscape still alive? I don't know. I don't think Netscape's alive anymore. It turned into Mozilla, and then Mozilla got Firefox, or developed Firefox, and we still got Firefox around, but we don't have Netscape around anywhere. But that was the first web GUI browser that was out there, which is kind of interesting. First mainstream browser gave individuals access to the internet, a set of standards. All right, so enabler number 3, workflow software. Enhancements in terms of the applications, project management as a concept. This is what around the 80s, okay, so this is 1995, was, I'll say, well, predates all of this stuff. The concept of project management, Carnegie Mellon's university studies, and they were the one that founded the CMM and all of the other kind of project management. Project Management Institute comes out of there and all their certifications. Later, the godfathers of project management, because they're the ones that came. And it was workflow management, task management, scheduling. So take a project management course. It's actually, if you're going to be an engineering manager of any sort, take a project management course, because that will save you a lot of money in terms of hiring and firing people, because at least you'll know how to organize the project, manage the workflow, manage the structure. So applications that allowed people worldwide to communicate, to share, to exchange data back and forth. And here's a picture of PayPal, actually. I don't know the year that PayPal actually came into existence, but it was long before eBay. eBay bought PayPal, but PayPal was one of the first electronic money exchange companies. They're not a bank. They're still not a bank, but they're an exchange company or a service that works between the banks. Well, not a bad idea, actually. And going back to the concept of e-commerce and e-business, well, not going back to, introducing the concept, I will also have a lecture on e-commerce and e-business as well in this class, but PayPal is what's called an e-business. So not every business that does commerce online is an e-business. Barnes & Noble is not an e-business. They're a bookstore. They sell books. They had, well, used to have brick and mortar buildings. Amazon was more of an e-business and didn't exist off of the internet, and then they started opening up stores, so they took themselves from an e-business and made themselves into a traditional business, actually. And Amazon, just like eBay, which is eBay's borderlining on becoming a business, actually a traditional business, because they're eBay stores now, not in California. We're too savvy, we're too tech savvy in California for a store for this, but in other areas of the world there's stores where you bring your stuff to it and they sell it for you online, and eBay owns all that stuff, which is kind of like what Amazon did. So Amazon pushed Barnes & Noble out of the traditional world, forced them to run online because they can't compete cost-wise. And then now Amazon's becoming a traditional business, which is kind of funny. And then eBay is hitting like in the Midwest and on the East Coast, they have eBay stores because people don't want to go online. It's too much of a hassle for them. But people in California will do that. But long story short, there's a big difference between an e-business and a traditional business. Just the same way as we've got e-commerce and we have traditional commerce. So just because you sell a product online doesn't make you an e-business. PayPal is a really good example of an e-business, because if it weren't for the internet and it weren't for globalization, we would not have PayPal. You can't take the product and sell it in the traditional world. It doesn't exist. So it's kind of like Craigslist kind of does exist, because you have the old want ads and you have the Mercury News or local papers and stuff with the for sale ads. eBay doesn't. I don't think you can make eBay exist. I mean, you have auctions, but people have to physically go to different locations. So that's kind of a gray line as well. But PayPal is one of the truly only e. There's no traditional part of this at all, which is kind of interesting because there's not that many e-businesses out there that are truly e-businesses. But anyway, because PayPal came up in one of these slides, I thought I'd mention that. I'll talk about it again when we get to the e-commerce section. But another thing that technology-wise that opened up the world was XML. So we're all familiar with HTML probably, because we're all maybe if we don't write, we use HTML. We look at websites all the time, and it's hypertext markup language. Well, XML is for data. So back when EDI first started, back when electronic exchange first started, big companies were doing it, kind of an expensive technology. You have to have a big server kind of communication for it. Then XML, as a dialect of SML actually, that came out of that, became like the mainstream communication language for businesses. So a lot of the PayPal technology is XML oriented. A lot of eBay transactions are XML oriented. And by the way, eBay bought PayPal because they wouldn't be able to exist without them anyway. But you might as well be all under the same ownership. So XML lets data talk to data. It's a data exchange language. It marks it and gives meaning to data, which opened up the world again in terms of globalization and be able to exchange. So a lot of older technologies translated over and got converted to XML-based technologies, made it easier. When I say make it easier, it takes the humans out of the situation. So we have one computer that can talk to another computer that can talk to another computer, and we don't need any humans involved in this. And this can happen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, constantly. Which that's the eBay concept right there. So if there had to be a human that went in and looked at every single transaction that occurred, it would not be possible. So, new possibilities for information sharing, a global currency to fuel commerce. Do we actually have a global currency yet? I don't think so. We have, we have eBay bucks. We have Apple credits. You can buy credits for Apple Store and stuff. We don't actually have an internet currency. We don't have a pure global currency. However, if you're a gamer and you're on any of those games, there's gamer currency. You can actually buy it with real currency too, which is kind of insane. You might as well just earn your points. But they keep saying this for like maybe the last 10 years that we're going to have an internet currency. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't know, but that will actually be a game changer. So there was like something on the TV, some theme going on with, there was an attempt to make it and it got shut down like a couple years ago. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a currency that you could buy, spend, and use online through Global. So, but 9 times out of 10, the government's going to have a problem with it if it's going to affect the money supply. So take an economics or a finance course and you'll learn about global currencies and the effects of what could happen if we came up with a fake currency for the internet, which is why a lot of people don't want it to happen. So, enabler number 4, uploading. Well, okay, so individual contributions. And I'm sure everyone in this room has used Wikipedia for something or another. And I keep telling this to every single student who uses this as a reference for anything, don't trust it. This is not a reliable source of information. This should not be trusted. Now I'm going to get 15 people on YouTube who are going to come back and put little comments underneath. Why do you say that? It's so much better now than it used to be. Yeah, okay, we've made some improvements. However, nobody fact checks this. This is peer-to-peer knowledge exchange. Okay, so so my nephew's like 20-something right now, but back when he was like about 17, he was going online just because he could, which was ridiculous actually. But you know how typical 17-year-old in the U.S., he goes online and he takes good information and he puts funny words in the middle of it. You know how people like to, he put the in bed at the end of every sentence or something, these jokes people play while drinking and stuff, I went to the store in bed while I was in bed. He did this to Wikipedia and got away with it, actually, but he didn't do it in bed, he did something else. Instead, he took and changed stuff around. Like, took good information, stuff he had, and it had something to do with medical stuff on Wikipedia. Something about, and it was a joke, because it started out with this how to remove wine stain from carpet thing. The typical wives' tale, and you're supposed to put soda water on it, right? So they changed it and put battery acid on it and put fingernail polish on it and all this stuff that you don't want to do. So the kids were doing this, and it was not just him, it was a whole group of kids. They were doing this, and they were seeing how long it would take. Some of the stuff is still up there. A couple of years ago, I ran in and I went, oh my God, it's still up there. Someone go in there and fix it. Because someone's going to put, battery acid on their carpet. That's going to like burn a hole through the carpet. Sure, it'll get rid of the wine stain, but it's going to ruin your carpet at the same time. But anyway, there's a lot of crap out there. Nobody fact checks it. So it's individuals who go on Wikipedia, who put whatever they want on there, and other people who go on there and change that to fix it. So it is individuals participating in content generation that's putting together this Wikipedia here. Then it's not, when I say fact checked, I mean not checked to see if it's real. So it's just not credible. So most of the undergraduate schools, most of the graduate schools, if you use this as a reference, you're writing a paper on TCP/IP and you found this little reference, it was on Wikipedia, and you put that on there, well, hopefully your teacher's going to mark it off. Hey, don't do that. Not a peer-reviewed source, not a credible source of information. Might be right, might not be right. Might be written by my nephew. You never know. So, and you're going to take his word for it? I don't think so. So, individual companies actively participating in content generation on the web. So, one of the good things about Wikipedia is that somebody did this and they didn't ask for any money. So it's kind of like, well, okay, Google makes a lot of money. Google's probably one of the richest companies on the internet. But they give us Google for free. Yeah, no. There's a price you're paying. There's a price you're paying on your Gmail too. There's a price you're paying on your Google Docs. It's all being data mined. It's a big old research experiment for this company. Everything that you do is their property. They own it. They're data mining it. You're going to walk out paranoid after today. All that stuff is theirs. So you're giving them content, you're giving them demographics, you're giving them an audience, they're selling ads to it. They make a lot of money from customers who want to put Google ads out there and click ads and all this other stuff. You're basically just volunteering, and you're working for Google, is what you're doing. And you're also helping them with their data mining activities and stuff like that that they're doing. So don't think that it's free. And Wikipedia, though, doesn't really have any hidden agendas. It is semi-free, and you can put your own wiki out there. So people put blogs out on the internet, wikis out on the internet. I've read through a couple blogs. In fact, there's a blogging course here. You could take a blogging course at ITU and learn how to write blogs. Don't believe everything you see on a blog either. It's kind of like that. What was it? State Farm, or there's some insurance company that's got an ad out. She says she's met this French model on the internet, and because everything you read on the internet is true, but he's like some dork that shows up. And I was like, you're not some French model, you're like some Joe Schmo from next door or something, But she totally believes him that he's a French model. But anyway, long story short, it's not true, and nothing on the internet. Not everything on the internet is true, so you guys are smart enough to know that, I hope. But it's interesting what some people think, though. So Wikipedia is a huge success, which was enabler number 4, being able to upload and contribute to the content that's on the internet. Enabler number 5, don't have to tell you that, outsourcing. So we have insourcing and we have outsourcing. Insourcing, this is the newest term that they have. How can you insource? Your company's not doing it, but it's being done in the United States. So in the state of California, if you haven't figured this out yet, cost of living is pretty high, especially where you're living. So if you have like a big Apple company over here, you got Adobe across the street, they don't do customer service in the state of California. They can't afford to pay their people what the people need to make in order to live here. Instead, mostly the state of Nebraska, around the Midwest, Nevada, believe it or not, has got a couple call centers, and they recently started locating call centers out of the country for outsourcing. But insourcing is when you have it in the country, but it's not your company. So they've been doing it for years with payroll, ADP payroll, accounting services. Big companies don't do their own some of them don't do their own accounting. They don't do their own customer service. They don't even do their own technical support anymore. So if it's not outsourced, it's insourced, but it's still sourced because it's cheaper. And you're also utilizing globalization. You're utilizing economies of scale. And people, as an example, in the Midwest, they can make $6 or $7 an hour and own a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and live a fairly decent life. And they have really nice Southern American sounding voices for the U.S. population. So, it's compromise. So actually, India is a good place for telecom services too, because you guys speak English. So the foreign countries, global countries where English is spoken, very popular. Or then, you also have your other, your call centers and things that are located out of the countries as well. So, in fact, a lot of Americans leave the U.S., go live in a foreign country, and get jobs at call centers so they can answer the phone and speak to Americans. But they make more money and they have a job there because they have a skill that they can use there while they're retiring. So, if you've ever bought anything on Expedia, ever called in on Expedia, Hotline, Hotels.com, all of them are international call centers. So you'll speak to somebody in Jamaica or something, or Mexico, or all over the place. Outsourcing companies profited from the drop in telecommunication costs. So when the deregulation happened around 1994, 1996, I think it was 1996 is deregulation actually. The drop in telecom pricing, then we opened it up. So companies that can use talented engineers from anywhere for technical support, for customer service, for anything. And then enabler number 6, offshore manufacturing. So companies set up entire factories in countries like China. So we have mass production, low costs. So you have low labor costs, but you also have low building costs, and low utilities, and low overhead, and no government regulation. You set the same factory up in the U.S., You have inspector this, inspector that, coming in, looking at stuff. You got tax on this, you got tax on that, you got workman's compensation, you got health insurance to give everybody, you got so many more built-in costs. Then you got to, and if you do it in the state of California and you're building cars like Numi, you can't afford to own the building. Well, if you own the building, that's great, but you can't afford to own the land. It's worth more than the factory. So you put it in some area of the world where the land is cheaper. And then you got local people who you can train, who you can, even house right there on the factory. So a lot of these factories, they have what they call them, dormitories. You fill them up with people, Actually, unfortunately, some of them, and this is the big thing that people were complaining about, the activist people were complaining about a while ago, but it has not as bad, I don't believe, as the public portrayed it to be. But a lot of the manufacturing plants, you send the low-income kind of third world country environment where you send the kids to the factory because you can't afford to buy them food, so they work at the age of 14, 15. So that's true. I mean, I've been to some of these factories. I know they're kind of young, but it's kind of they have, at the same time, although they're working and they're sending most of their paycheck is going home to the parents, they are keeping some of it, and then they are having their independence and they're growing. And a lot of these factories have built up English schools, and because these kids are supposed to be in high schools, but they're not. Or, they're supposed to be getting an education. So a lot of them have schools to teach them language and math and stuff in between their working shifts at the factory. Anyway, it's gotten a lot better, but yeah, in the beginning it was a little abusive. I will admit to that. So then a lot of people decided, no, we're not going to do that because we're not going to support the. They had ads on the television in the U.S. Little kids making clothing and stuff in Indonesia and stuff like that. But anyway. Enabler number 7, supply chaining. Integration of retailers, suppliers, customers. Walmart becoming an early leader using RFID tags. Actually, what they're now doing, and I kind of talked about this last time, is their experimentation now with those infrared tags where you just stick all the stuff in a basket and you put it under a sensor and it rings it all up for you, which is great because then all you have to do is walk by a row of stuff in inventory and you know exactly what's on the shelf. So as technology improves, so does the mass production of it and mass use of it, and then the supply chain is also improving. So in this particular example, though, supply chaining meaning that we can get products from all over the world. So supply chain management has really improved with technology. So we have exchange hubs and we have different places that are on corporate internets where you can come in and you say, hey, I've got the 5,000 nails for sale. And, oh, I need 5,000 nails. Yeah, and people can just electronically exchange back and forth. You see this with consumer market with, I can't remember what it used to be called, but people used to dump stuff. It's like August, and you got 5,000 bathing suits left or something. Who's going to buy a bathing suit in August, or September or something, or Christmas trees in January or something. You go online and you can buy lots of stuff cheap. So why do you want that? I don't know, because you're going to save it and do it next year. I don't know. Anyway, but that's part of the consumer part of supply chaining. But supply chaining and the encouragement and growth of supply chain management also. And I already talked about number 8, which was insourcing. So outsourcing and insourcing. Number 8 enabler is insourcing. Delegation of companies' key operations to subcontractors in the U.S. Example, UPS provides complete supply chain solutions to companies. They actually do, which is interesting. Because UPS is a huge shipper, so that's why I said, though, I used the word drop shipped earlier, and then I realized, well, maybe you guys may not necessarily be familiar with the way the shipping company is working now, but drop shipping is an insource technique where you don't actually have to own anything. So bookstores do it all the time, actually, and that's how your Barnes & Noble and your Amazon works online. Amazon does not have an entire warehouse full of merchandise. Nobody should have an entire warehouse full of merchandise. Instead, the publishers produce per order. So they have lots of so many books that come off presses, and they have some of it stored, but most of it's made to order. So you're online and you order a book. So Amazon is the intermediate party saying, okay, customer, you want this book? Oh, Pearson's got this book. Okay. So it does a lookup in the Pearson's database, somebody else's database, not theirs, the publisher's database, and says, oh yeah, we have this book. And then the price comes through Amazon, and Amazon tacks on their profit, and then it comes back to the customer. Customer says, okay, I'll buy this book. So then the money that belongs to Amazon goes to Amazon, the money that belongs to Pearson goes to Pearson automatically. And then Pearson ships it to the customer. It's called a drop ship. So you drop it off to the customer without ever coming through Amazon. If you can do that and you're a small business, you don't need a warehouse, you don't need a storefront, you don't need anything. You just drop ship. So you work out agreements and you work the systems out, and it's most of it done through XML and through internet storefront / e-commerce engine functionality. It's a part of insourcing. It's what UPS is doing for most of the shipping stuff. So you can drop ship with other concepts in terms of you're on eBay and you buy something and you print a label out on your printer and you stick it on the package and you leave it on your door, and someone comes by and picks it up and gives it to the customer. Or you have other arrangements that are set up. So it's a way of insourcing shipping, and it's done in other industries as well outside of shipping. Customer service is done that way as well. So the phone lines just ring to a different location. So enabler number 9 is informing. So informing is individuals want. So informing is to individuals what outsourcing or offshoring and insourcing is to companies. So individuals have access to mass amounts of information. So there's one company I think is pretty popular. I think it's still out there, and I can't never pronounce how it's called. I think it's called Alibaba. Alibaba. Are you guys familiar with that? Are they still around? How do you say it?
It's Alibaba.
Alibaba. Am I saying that right? Yeah. I found that actually, and I was. This was years ago. Back when the iPods came out. And they had Alibaba had a couple of Chinese manufacturers that were making fake iPods. And a friend of mine was in the kind of the flea market business or whatever. They were kind of getting into this. And that friend actually is really a good eBay, makes a living on eBay right now. And all he does is drop ship. Anyway, he went to Alibaba. International sources of product. You can buy anything you want in bulk, like you're a distributor. But you can just be an individual. And then they send you samples. They send you free samples and stuff so you can see what it looks like. There's a lot of illegal stuff on there. There's a lot of knockoffs. There's a lot of imitation product. There's a lot of, here's some Sony computers, but they're not really made by Sony. Fake this, fake that. It's kind of like, it's the electronic, some of it is sort of like the electronic version of you go to Hong Kong and you buy a couple of streets, it has all the knockoffs, all the Rolexes and stuff that are, kind of fake, but some of them are really good. That's the bad part of it. The good part is there's real product, and there's real suppliers, and there's real kind of sourcing. So there's no such thing as a buyer anymore. So back in the U.S. about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you could go to school and become a buyer. You were a sourcer. So you went, you used the telephone book or you used catalogs, and you had a manufacturing run going, so the buyer would procure all the parts and pieces needed, find all the suppliers, get all that information, find the best costs, and kind of put together the parts list and have everything shipped in for the manufacturing run. No more, it's all done electronically. Electronically for businesses, but also electronically for consumers. So you can use the open internet for it, but most people go through stuff, and as I mentioned before, Alibaba was one of the most popular. Alibaba was funny because I liked it because it was open to everybody. You didn't have to have a license. You don't have to have a business license. You don't have to have anything. And they had a lot of cool stuff on there. Like they had they had fake iPads too, which was really cool. They were Androids, but they look like iPads. Yeah. I must admit, I own a pair of fake. I bought a set of fake Callaways golf clubs. I still have them in my garage too. I don't like them though because they're not really Callaways. They don't play like Callaways. They don't even play like real golf clubs. They're like not even balanced correctly. They're just really bad. But they say Callaway on the side of them. They look really nice in the bag in the garage, but that's about it. Not very functional. All right, enabler number 10, the steroids. Well, okay, so technologies that support different types of collaboration. So we have greater mobility, triple convergence. So we have work-at-home people, outsourced labor. We have different types of collaborations. So most of your outsourced programming technology, your development, your engineering can be done this way, where we have remote groups that are maybe partner companies. So it brings up the concept of this enterprise, like the Starship Enterprise. Not really the Starship Enterprise. You guys don't know that reference probably, but long story short, the company, its suppliers, its employees, it's everybody else, but everybody's a individual, but they all collaborate together on projects, and they all work together, and then they all get paid, so that everything gets divided out. But they don't really exist. They're just kind of like, well, they do exist, but they're not part of the same group. They're collaborating. A little bit different than the company who allows their employees to work from home. It's more of the, you're contracting with me. You do Java programming for this company, that company, and that company. And then you come together for different projects with my company, and we have this other guy over here who programs at this company, that company, that company. They come together, and these guys all work as a team. So that's collaboration on steroids, essentially. So putting everything together, triple convergence, putting everybody together. So although I said I was going to breeze through this, I guess I didn't. But those are the enabling factors for globalization. You'll get that as well if you take an international business course. So let's see, emerging opportunities. So those are globalization and the key driving factors or enabling factors for it. We also have some opportunities that are emerging for operating in the digital world. So we have the concept of the digital world, kind of like the digital currency I was trying to bring up a few slides back. Something that exists that is a part of the global economy, not necessarily local, in terms of opportunities, new markets, different areas of the world, different companies with new customers. It's more than just getting more customers, however. It's getting more business partners and relationships, and then locating yourself elsewhere. So it's more than just growth in terms of customers or marketing. So for the digital world, engineering graduates in the United States, Europe, and India, look at that, 2009. Why are you guys coming here to study? Yeah, you have more graduates in India than you do here. But you know what, though? There's more jobs here, though. No? Is that why you guys are here? I don't know. You just love the weather, I know. The weather's better. So opportunities of the global workforce. Well, this is telling you why we outsource to India. This is why, and not only is it cheaper because you guys have, it's more economies of scale. There are more Java programmers, there's more technical people in certain areas of the country than there are in others. So, plus what ended up happening in the United States, which is actually kind of funny, is we had around 83, 84, we had the Silicon Valley. You guys remember that? Just watch the history of the Silicon Valley. Comes on Channel 9 like once a year or something like that. I've been looking for a recording of that. I know it's available. Around the 80s, early 80s, everyone wanted to get into computer science in California, especially this area, because of the .com. Actually, this was before .com. It was the Silicon Valley. The silicon chip, the microcomputer, HP. We got Steve Jobs. We got all these people here that are just like babies right out of school, who all have these inspirations and these hopes. Everybody's studying computer science. Everyone's getting into it. And then we have that kind of trickles a little bit. Then we get the .com. And then we get the .bust. When the .bust happened after the .com dies, Silicon Valley dies, .bust, which is everyone now gets out of computer science. They leave computer science. Then they get into business. They go into other areas. They get out of engineering completely. This happened for about 5 years, 5, 6 years. We have no graduates. Now you graduate, and it doesn't matter, you guys can take the same opportunity actually. Now you graduate with something from a US school, even if you come in from elsewhere. There's so many jobs here for people outside of the country because so many opportunities, because we don't have any local talent anymore. The government knows this because we haven't had any computer science graduates for about 5 or 6 years. Everyone switched majors, got out of it. Oh no, no more. It's like, you know, they got off the bandwagon, get on the bandwagon, get off. Problem right now is you can't find anyone. There's tons of jobs open in computer science and engineering and programming, but there's nobody to take those jobs here. They all switched majors because of the dot bust. So then it's cyclical. So then we'll go back around and everyone's studying computer science now. So then we'll have another mini dot. Well, maybe we'll have another second wave of the Silicon Valley, all these graduates coming out. And then it'll drop again, and then it'll come back up, and it'll drop again. So it's been doing that for like the last couple of decades here. But now is a good time though, because you know, they'll take you in for CPT, they'll take you in for everything because we don't have the local talent. So it's a great opportunity for everybody. So opportunities: low communication costs, highly skilled labor pool. So that's a those are kudos to you guys. Highly skilled labor pool, low communication costs, makes it easy. All right, so those are the opportunities, and not too many opportunities, just essentially giving you what you already know. So now we have factors that companies have to consider when operating in the digital world. So if you're the company, what are the challenges to operating in the digital world? Well, that's what I'm going to get into, well, I was trying to get into today in terms of competition. Competitive factors in the workplace. So globalization also creates a set of unprecedented challenges. Well, number one, if anything, governmental challenges. I don't know why the world has to think of the governments getting into the way of progress, but they do. Regulation, tariffs, rules. It's good. It's good. We need regulation, and especially with globalization, we definitely need some control. But that is a challenge. Geoeconomic challenges, geographical and cultural challenges as well. So government challenges, what are they in? Political system challenges. Okay, take political science if you're interested in this. So this is, again, political stability, you know, the presidents and the way things are done. There's a lot of changes, though. A lot of people have become like a lot of countries have changed their practices slightly to become more like other countries. So globalization's actually improved that a little bit. Regulatory challenges are the biggest one. In fact, that's what's stopping the tariffs, embargoes, export regulations, quotas. This is what's causing exporting to fail right now. So for the longest time, we imported, exported, and then we did offshore manufacturing. Now it practically costs the same thing because of all of the extra money you have to spend and all of the regulations you have to do going back and forth, and then there's delays. If you ship a product out of some areas of China and it has a CD-ROM in it, you're looking at a 3-month wait through customs. Hard to get that product to market quickly. So then you pull the CD-ROM out of the box because of all of the issues associated with pirating of music and stuff. There's huge regulations and huge searches and red tape after red tape of customs crap that you have to go through. So you pull that off, you put it online, and then you get another problem that comes up, or another problem after that. So those are most of the big challenges. So you take advantage of all this, and then you figure out, oh, higher costs, or you get, you know, the government putting wage attachment. I don't want to say attachments. That's the wrong word for it, but penalties, expenses, because you're hiring cheaper labor. So you're going to be taxed for that. It's happening with insourcing as well, which is kind of stupid. So anyway, regulatory challenges. I'm not going to go into all of them. So take political science for regulatory. Data sharing challenges. Transborder data flow regulations. That's the CD-ROM problem. Still a problem. So it became a problem because there was so much software reproduction elsewhere. And then, you remember back when everything used to be on a CD or a DVD? Now we don't have those anymore. You just download from the internet, but still a problem. The government's still holding it up through customs. not a problem, but it is for them still. But that's part of the data sharing challenges. Differences in standards, UPC versus EAN, measurement units, not so bad. Postal codes, phone numbers, little stuff. Those are little stuff, electricity, stuff like that. Internet access and individual freedom. We still have our freedom, which is fantastic. I quote you not. So 2, 3, 4 more years down the road, remember today, and I say we're going to have a government tax or something on that internet. The government is just begging to get their hands on it. The U.S. government is begging to get their hands on the U.S. internet traffic because there's too much fraud. And there's too much taxes, not people buying stuff without paying sales tax. So they've done it with Amazon. They've required them to the big business. They're hitting the big businesses, requiring them to charge sales tax. But the problem is there's no jurisdiction. It crosses jurisdictions as well. So the problem is they can't. State, local, federal taxes are a mess online. And not only that, but there's people that are claiming, well, there's no we have to regulate it in order to keep it safe, which I can kind of appreciate. But at the same token, there's always a cost for our freedom. There's a cost for being safe, and it's usually our freedom. It's like the Patriot Act, if you remember that. So those in the U.S. didn't like it, back when the Patriot Act was enacted. Which, if you're not familiar with this, as a foreigner, you're probably not familiar with this. A few years back, the government made it legal to wiretap anybody's telephone. So you know how many drug busts they've made since then? Yeah, they have definitely cut down on crime. Have they caught any terrorists this way? I haven't read anything about any high-profile terrorists being caught this way, but it was to prevent, to uphold more higher level of security in the country by giving the government access to listen freely on any one of your telephone calls, including your cell phone calls. So if you say something illegal on the phone, just keep in mind someone might be listening too. So, highly unlikely, but you never know. Usually what they do is they try to tap phones of suspected drug dealers so they can catch the drops and stuff. But they used it to fight local crime, and I don't really mind that. I just have a problem with our freedom getting taken away. So. Anyway, internet access, individual freedom, content blocking by government censorship. Believe it or not, U.S. doesn't do anything, but they do elsewhere. So there's certain websites you can't get to in certain countries, and you can explain that better as an international Chinese or Asia countries. They block everything. I think you can't get Gmail somewheres, but you can get Yahoo, and I don't know if Facebook's blocked or something. I don't know. I know YouTube's blocked because we have a Asian part of ITU, and they can't put anything on YouTube. Can't access YouTube from Asia. I'm thinking, well, what? YouTube? It's like huge. But you can't get to it because the Chinese government won't allow them to. So, well, we're going to get that in the U.S. Mark my word. 3 or 4 more years down the road, we're going to see something like that. It's just bound to happen. That's what they keep saying. Voice over IP restricted as well. I don't know if that's still the case. Slide set's kind of old. Germany sites for fascism, no symbols prohibited. Internet access blocking, Cuba, North Korea. Geoeconomic challenges, time zone challenges, not really a big issue now. Maybe a few years back, but people have become some people in the United States live on different time zones. If you work remotely on the East Coast, you're like 3 hours off anyway. But what the challenge is if you work on Pacific time and you're working in the East Coast and you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be on a telephone conference call, that's just ridiculous because they're ahead of us. So, but real-time meetings across continents are difficult working around the clock. Actually, it's to our advantage for call centers because it's the middle of their day. It's our nighttime. We don't have to hire people to work at night. They're always working during the day. So. Infrastructure-related challenges, traditional infrastructure, roads, electricity, connectivity, reliable internet connections. That's a challenge actually in the U.S. right now because companies like Microsoft would love to put something like Microsoft 360 100% on the cloud, take it off, which is software as a service. I'm going to talk about cloud computing, not today, but it's coming up as one of our menu choices for lectures. And it's great. You just sell a license and you just subscribe to it and you pay by the month and you get everything online. And they keep predicting, like Microsoft's doing it, Apple's trying to do it, there's a lot of companies trying to do it. The problem is you can't depend on the internet access. You can't sell somebody a service that they're not going to get. When you're not going to get that, it's not reliable. It's not like one of our utilities. Now, if someone were to tell me there's a possibility I'm not going to have electricity at my house, oh, I'm going to throw a fit until they turn it back on. And it doesn't happen other than once or twice a year when we have really bad storms. We lose the power for like an hour or something and then it's back on. But it's government regulated, government funded utility. Internet's not a utility. So if I'm buying a license to Microsoft Office and I can't get to it because something's down, oh, it causes too many problems. So you have to make it so it's locally installed. So you have it. If you bought it, you have it. You're going to get it versus not getting it. It's like your cable TV. If you lose your cable, because you guys may not know this, just call them up, complain about it. They'll give you a couple months free. They have to. You lose your power, you lose your water, you lose your cable, you use your telephone, a cell phone. You just complain about yourself. Oh, they'll credit you. They'll credit you for all those calls you said you didn't make. They'll credit you, no questions asked. It's cheaper for them just to give you it back than it is to like fight you on it. So, because then the government will charge them fines if they don't maintain a level of service. But until we can guarantee reliable internet connections and reliable internet access and actually treat it like a utility, we can't use it like a utility, which is one of the problems. So that's holding us back in terms of software as a service. Challenges related to economic welfare as well. Gross, what is it? Product growth. Growth not distributed evenly throughout the world. National products not being evenly tied to different markets. Some companies used to deal with low margins, tough competition. So that's a problem when you're working with different scenarios. And differing rates of population growth. Some companies growing at higher paces than others. So we have a little high. What's the yellow one? The world in general. The red one, Asia's growing pretty high. Blue is Africa on the lower side. So, and I'm sure this is this slide set's about 5 years old. Ish, or I should say the slide set's not. The data is about 5 years old or so. So I'm thinking, well, it's 2010. The data's from 2010. It's about 3 years old. Well, 2.5 years old or so. So geoeconomic challenges, more of a demographic challenges as well, expertise related challenges, different concentration of skills and workers and different costs, which is kind of interesting. And the price of labor is actually kind of interesting because that fluctuates with the price of the dollar. So depending upon what's going on with the currency exchange rates between the countries, the labor cost changes. So you have some areas that have gotten to be a little too pricey, and some areas that were pricey that aren't pricey anymore. So things are constantly in flux. So it's hard to predict long term where you're going to be. You can't just decide you're going to do something in a particular country and just stay there forever. You have to be flexible. And then cultural challenges, national culture, power distance, the distance in how societies handle the issues of human inequality, uncertainty avoidance, risk-taking, individual collectivism, value based on individual versus a group in terms of individual or collectivism, masculinity, femininity, degrees of society characterized by masculine and feminine kind of characteristics. And then the concept of time, also kind of an interesting one, long-term, short-term, life focus, quantity, quality of life. This is why I don't think we've done very much outsourcing with Japan successfully. They don't contract work. Employees work at the same company for their entire life. And it's usually the company their parents worked at. How you gonna outsource over there? You can't. The culture doesn't lend itself to outsource, to insource, to utilizing it that way. So, which is kind of interesting. And then it's an entirely different way of life as well. So then we have cultural barriers, language, art, music, culture, education, attitude towards education and literacy. Not to be biased against any country, so I'll just use generic countries in general. Some of them don't promote education in general. It's not part of the lifestyle, not part of where you don't have as many educated people. Some areas of Africa. Usually it's, I don't want to use the word third world, but usually it calls in a third world category. And there's third world parts of U.S. that are considered third world. We just go out, branch out of California a little bit, head west, head east, in the middle of America, around Wyoming, you're going to hit some third world areas of the U.S. Where people may not even finish high school over there. So religious beliefs, attitudes, you also get that in. No, I'm going to get trashed for saying Wyoming, but. All right, so I was driving through Wyoming, going elk hunting, about 15 years ago, and we had a couple of cases of beer with a cooler in the back because we were elk hunting. What do? You drink beer and you look for elks. I didn't shoot any elks. Don't worry about it. I was a passenger. But so somebody in the car said, and I was driving the car. Someone in the car said, "Hey, you know what? It's legal to drink and drive." And it was actually. I didn't realize. Hey, there's a cop. So we all pulled out beers. We were all down in the beers while driving and videotaping this while passing a police officer. And I stopped and asked the police officer for directions. And he answered me, and I said, "Oh, thank you." I have it all on video. But this wasn't that long ago. This was about 5 years ago. But we did not break any laws. It was in the United States, but it was in Wyoming. It's legal to drink and drive in Wyoming. Well, it was 5 years ago. So anyway, that's an example of cultural education, cultural, and that's in the U.S. So imagine you're trying to get a product built, and it's okay to drink on the job, like you're in another country where it's okay to come to work intoxicated or something. How your work product is not necessarily going to be the same as if you went into another country that didn't promote such behavior. So, all right, so environmental challenges, energy consumptions, pollution, workers' health, shipping costs. The shipping costs, that's an interesting thing, especially if you're thinking about a heavy-duty product like tires. Lots of tires, are you going to make those elsewhere and ship them into the U.S.? Unless you do it by boat, maybe. But so they don't. They make them in the U.S. They ship them out of the U.S. to be put on the cars that are shipped back into the U.S. Or they ship the cars in with no tires and they put the tires on here. So other challenges, differences in regarding the appropriate standards, regarding what's appropriate, dealing with intellectual property. I have an entire lecture that I'm going to give you on intellectual property because that's really big with engineering management, actually. So I'll wait with that one as well. So network readiness. Not every country has access to global networked economy either. So, all right, last but not least, our international business and information system strategies using companies in the digital world. Well, what are the strategies? And then we're going to get into these factors coming up soon in terms of what our competition would look like here. So going global. So strategies. So let me outline some strategies for you. So home replication strategy, global business strategies, multi-domestic business strategies, and then transnational business strategies. So we have the degree of global integration by the degree of responsiveness. And we can kind of put the 4 strategies in a sort of a grid here in terms of our different approaches. So some of them have a high or a low degree. So we have a home replication strategy. We take what we do at home and we replicate it elsewhere. We do the same thing but we do it somewhere else. Or we have somebody else do it for us and we bring it in. So the degree of responsiveness is pretty low. We don't necessarily need to respond. We don't have that much of a challenge with it. But the degree of integration is very low as well. To the top extreme over here in this corner here, transnational strategy, where we essentially have a high degree of responsiveness and a high degree of global integration. So it presents itself with a little bit more challenges. I'm going to go through these actually in detail right now, so I'll wait. But this is the big picture, so wait with your understanding of what it is I'm talking about yet. I'm going to go through each one of these 4 little items, kind of put it together. Home replication strategy. most basic form of going global. Easiest way of going global. So the countries view international operations as secondary or extension of home operations. They're doing exactly what they're doing here. They don't necessarily need to do it elsewhere. They're going to do the same thing elsewhere. It's just an extension. Very low level of international exposure with that. Very low risk, very low responsiveness. So it focuses on core competencies in the home market. Every U.S. company does this. It's a home replication. So we say we're going to outsource our payroll. In fact, actually banks do it now. Banks will do your payroll for you. Why do you want to do payroll? You're a payroll company. No, you're a software company or something. So you let other people do it. It's just an extension of you. They're working for you. So there's an inability to react to local market conditions. Can't really change. Payroll. If the payroll company raises their prices, you pay that. What are you going to do? Get out another payroll? There's only really 2 or 3 big payroll companies. They're all tied to the local banks, actually. You don't have too many choices. You kind of just suck it up. You have this inability to react. You can't do anything with it. Unless you want to do it yourself. That's about it. Homogeneous markets. Yeah. So information systems play a minor role in facilitating the strategy. You don't even need them at all. In fact, they could be doing your information systems for you as well. Talked about information systems in the first lecture. So if this is your first class and you missed information systems last week, take a look at that. You'll see the definition of that. So global business strategies, looking in terms of the centralized market. Oops, what did I do? Going up this way now. So we're going from up this way, and then we'll go this way and go up this way. So global strategies. It's centralized, so it's used to achieve economies of scale. Coca-Cola is one of them. Same core product, same different tastes from the local market, but you've moved the operation. So if you get a Coca, this is actually something that we used to do when we used to travel as kids, because kids drink Coca-Cola. So you had to get a Coca-Cola bottle from each country you went to, because Coca-Cola is different in the U.S. than it is in Mexico, than it is in Europe. It's all over the place. So this is the second strategy. This is the global business strategy, where you take the company, and instead of it being an extension off the main company, you just relocate it. So now we have Coca-Cola in Mexico or something. Different bottle. Actually, they're still using glass bottles, I think, too, which is really cool. Yeah, glass bottles. They have glass bottles. So actually, I think they use a little more sugar. I don't know. You know, that's a little sweeter. So we had one in China that was it China? I can't remember where it was. No, maybe it was Japan or something. I swear it tastes like Diet Coke, but it was Coke. It had totally different flavor to it. And then some countries have more carbonation, less carbonation. So anyway, it's the same product, different taste. McDonald's does the same thing. Actually, McDonald's is another company. McDonald's sells noodles and rice in different countries. Yeah, they have different menus too. Yeah, you can go to McDonald's and get egg rolls. Actually, you could probably get egg rolls in the U.S. too. So let's see, what have we got here? The role of characteristics of information systems, centralized information systems, centralized business operations, the data flow from subsidiaries to home location. There's a little bit of data flow that goes between all the different McDonald's chains and things. Multiple networks between home and offices and subsidiaries, and data does not stay in the subsidiaries. It usually gets collected centrally, so it'll get all housed together. So that's our global business strategy. And then our multi-domestic business strategy. Whoops. So now down here on the bottom, we're looking at a low level of global integration, but a high level of responsiveness in our multi-domestic, and then we have our transnational left. But our multi-domestic, oops. Here we go. Low degree of integration between the subunits. So flexible, responsive, needs for the market demand. General Motors is one of them. Opel in Germany, you know. Great Britain's got, I can't even pronounce that. But so we have local centralized, not integrated, subsidiaries that are standalone business units that have a lot of flexibility, flexible, responsive for local markets. So it's kind of interesting. It's sort of subsidiaries that are either locally or they're international locally or they're internationally dispersed, and they're all kept as separate subsidiaries. So not really merged together in terms of global networks, not like the last example. So the multi-domestic business strategy, the goal and the characteristics of the information systems. So the strategies in terms of keeping, sharing information between them. Each subsidiary has its own decentralized information. They're not sharing anything. Think of this sort of like the differences between a chain and a non-chain. So I don't think Arby's, you guys familiar with Arby's? Remember A&W root beer? You guys ever eat a hamburger at A&W? Like they have one in San Jose, actually. That's not a chain. Each one of the A&Ws is owned separately, but they're all A&Ws. But McDonald's, all owned together. Coca-Cola, all owned together. But it's like, what do they call it? Franchise versus, there's another word for it, and I can't remember right now. Whether, if they're all owned by the same company or if they're all individually owned. So, chain. Yeah, the chain is there. This is a chain. This is the multi-locations, multi-domestic business strategies. No centralized infrastructure, not owned together, all separately owned. Data sharing primarily between subsidiaries in the home office or the home subsidiary, the organization. Limited data sharing among the subsidiaries, and then loose integration of the information systems. Why do you need to know all this stuff here? Because eventually, if you're an engineering manager, you're going to essentially be thinking about globalization. You're going to be thinking about strategies in terms of getting a competitive advantage in terms of where you're going to locate yourself and where you're going to get your resources from and what strategy you're going to use, which is one of the issues actually. One of the hardest things to decide is how you're going to position yourself in the market as a company if you're working in this area. So, transnational business strategy, the last one here. Some operations are centralized while others are decentralized. It's kind of a hybrid, a combination of both. They're flexible economies of scale, difficult to manage on uni level. Well, not necessarily a good company to use as an example since I've never heard of them. But let me see if I come up with a better example for you. It's kind of like, well, it's a hybrid. It's a chain that's a subsidiary that's all owned together. It might actually be just one company with several different locations. So, the role and characteristics of the information systems, you have the integrated networks between the home office and the local subsidiaries. Because they are owned together, there's a connection between all of them. Much of the communication is among the subunits and in between the home offices and the subunits. So that more of the subunits working together versus more peer-to-peer versus a star kind of format in terms of the connections. Key data is sharing throughout the company. Okay. Data is shared throughout the company. Enables an internet web-based applications to exist. I'd almost say that Alibaba, well no, Alibaba's more of a, what do they call it, a content provider or content distributor or middleman kind of company versus a home-based company. So if we take all these business, and these are business strategies, by the way, these are global business strategies. If we take them all and kind of compare them side by side, what we're looking at is differences between centralized and decentralized systems. What are these systems? Like communications systems, the network systems, the data sharing, all of the intercommunications between them all, how they're organized, centralized. We only have two choices, centralize or decentralize them. And then the communications, the level of communication, and then the level of data resources. The higher the level of communication, the higher the level, the lower the level of resources, the lower the level of responsiveness. So, data resources, local databases, as a common characteristic of a resource. Data sharing, common global resources shared among them all. So it could be customer lists, it could be supplier lists. Resources come in all different shapes and formats. So, oh, I didn't give you the competitive advantages today. Bummer. Maybe it's in here. I thought this one had the competition in it. Oh well, I falsely advertised today's lecture then. I thought I was going to get into competition eventually. I'll have to save that for next time. So, not quite done yet though. Let's take a quick look here at the end of the chapter content. And what I want to do is kind of talk about the first assignment for you in the EMS. So when I get done here, don't run out yet. Not only do you have to sign the attendance, but we will, I just still have a few more things to tell you about today. In a couple of the case studies and at the end of each one of these innovative lectures, there's a couple of different examples of some things that went right and some things that went wrong at certain companies, and having to do, in this particular case, the digital world. So Infosys Technologies, Inc. is the one here. And so companies like Infosys have flattened the world. What does that mean? Well, it's made it more manageable and more reachable in terms of that kind of terminology. It does the business in new ways, outsourcing, supply chain, consulting, employment. We got Netscape here from a long time ago. Founded Mosaic Communication. Oh, Mosaic, that's the one who makes Netscape originally. So we had Mosaic. We had 75% of the web surfers that used Netscape in 1996. Remember AOL that came out of that? AOL acquired Netscape in 1999. That's what happened to Netscape. AOL acquired it. So both funded several different startups. Don't know which the startups were. I can't remember. But then we had this entire concept of the online searching that came out of the start of Google, which Google ended up, originally was a search engine. So to Google has become a household word. Still is a household word, actually. And Google's up, change percent. This is a couple years old, so it could probably go up even higher at this point. So people still use, no one uses MSN anymore. Is MSN even a search engine? The other one didn't work either. What was the other one? Bing. Have you guys used Bing? No. I don't know, hardly anyone's ever heard of Bing, but Bing, there's a lot of them that have been tried to come out there. So
people used to use Bing for searching the
flights. Now what do you use? Still use it?
Yeah, for the flights.
Just for flights. So Accenture, you guys heard of Accenture? I haven't heard of this company. You've heard of, are they still around?
Yeah, they are. It's a big company.
And they're still big?
Yeah.
Wow. Price consulting, technology, outsourcing? Outsourcing, yeah. Global before other companies were just waking up to globalization. They announced plans for, this is around 2000, a doubling to 13,000 business consultants between 2008 and 2011. Wow. So they're still around. That's good. I wouldn't know. You guys would know, though. Underground gaming economy. This is what I was mentioning before. Huge money right now in gaming. Gamers. And in fact, there's a couple of internet currencies already in this too, which is kind of interesting. Think about it. I mean, this doesn't happen in the real world, but it happens in gaming. So massive multiplayer online role-playing games. Very popular, actually. Virtual world players through avatars, players starting selling virtual tools and for real money. Farmers. There's a lot of stuff on eBay. Actually, you could buy weapons and stuff on eBay. So, fortunately, I have not gotten stuck into this yet. Although I do know some people who have, and it takes over the real world. So, only do it if you're on vacation and you don't need to work. It essentially transforms you into an internet person and takes you out of the real world. So there's a few psychological problems associated with gaming, I guess. What's your take on farmers and people buying tools and advancements without mastering the skills? So that's an interesting concept. It's kind of like, unfortunately, people buy their way into better roles online and they spend real money for it. It's kind of weird. Like $20,000 to go up a level or something. And then you just exchange your profile with somebody else. It's weird. Learning languages in context. Online language instruction using social networking. structured lessons, help with grammar, canned pronunciation guides. We're actually doing this with ITU Cafe. They're teaching English by watching Friends in the City. No,
It's a combination of Sex in the City
Yeah.
and one more, Friends. I think.
Friends in the City.
Yeah.
What's it called? Something
It's
in the
called
City.
Friends in the City. But,
Oh, it is Friends in the City.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Friends in the City. It's like Sex in the City and Friends.
It's like in combination with
Yeah.
2 to 3 other things.
They actually have a pilot out, or they have something. I don't know if you've seen it yet. They had it at downstairs. They had it in the ITU Cafe back when that was open here in San Jose, like right around the corner, like right in the same building, right down the hallway. I don't know if it's still there.
I don't think it's
They were
out,
showing
but
it.
They're showing it in the classes
Oh.
as it is in the other courses.
Digital arts classes, or?
Yeah, I took HCI, Human Computer Interaction. So
Oh, okay.
I got to know about it.
Yeah, it's revolutionary. Although this lecture is from 2010. No, I'm not trying to knock it or anything. It's definitely cutting edge. Still, we don't see very much of it, but it's for teaching ESL, I believe, through television. When you think about it, though, a lot of that's kind of like, well, I was going to say it's kind of like how I learned Spanish, actually, watching Spanish television. A lot of people learn English that way as well, watching English television. Although they come out saying these extremely weird phrases from old TV shows, but yeah. Structured lessons and stuff. More valuable asset to conversation, native speaking, using social community to increase understanding. You know, another thing I could add to here that is of about 2011 is using social media for advertising. That's not in the slide set because the slide set's from 2010. I would say starting about 2011. I want to say around 11, right after this, actually. Now we have social media as a main outlet for advertising, which is interesting. So you can get your job. You can get a job as a social media advertiser. Is that your job?
I worked as a social media advertiser and pay-per-click and search engine marketing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there still a lot of demand for that? Or, yeah?
There's a lot of
It's growing still.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's growing.
I thought it was going to hit a bubble, you know, and then kind of drop down a little bit. But
As long as people purchase online, they always have.
did you enjoy it, or was it stressful?
No, it was really good.
Because the other person I talked to about it, they said it was really stressful. That there's a lot of pressure on you, and that you have to. It's like a lot of work, a lot of busy work. I don't know.
Yeah, it is quite stressful, but I used to enjoy my work, so.
Oh, good. Well, good. Now we have Anyone have any bloggers in the house? No. Anyone take that blogging class? Well, we have a blogging class. We had one last term. I don't know. That's stressful. To have to keep you have to write every day. I don't know. E-waste. We have e-waste actually. Disposal electronic containing hazardous materials. You know they charge you when you buy a computer and when you sell a computer. They charge you an e-waste on it. It's kind of like when you buy cans of soda. They charge you a recycling fee. Yeah, they charge you in this country for waste. Yeah. U.S. exports much of its e-waste to third world countries. China banned and the import in 2002. They don't want our e-waste anymore. Other countries to follow. In mid-2006, the EU banned toxic ingredients, green hardware. Yeah. Well, lead was always the problem, and now it's not really lead, it's other stuff that's the issue these days. So, automobile industry is feeling the pressure of globalization. Failed attempts at making the world car. We don't have a world car. Consumers have different tastes, and we have different infrastructures and drive needs. So the price of gasoline also is different. So, which is actually kind of funny because in the U.S. our gas prices aren't that bad. It could be worse. Although you walk out on the street and you ask anyone, how do you think about the gas? Oh, it's too expensive. Well, then, and they're driving this SUV that gets 10 miles per gallon. It's like, what is your problem? But yeah, we have some variations in that, variations in emission standards as well. And U.S. is actually really good at that. We have really high emission standards. We have clean air out here. So globalization is already there. So foreign manufacturers producing in the U.S. And, you know, when they were doing they had the NUMMI plant. I don't know if we still have anybody. Maybe in Detroit. I think Michigan still got a couple. Don't quote me on that. We don't make cars in the U.S. anymore. It's too expensive. But, U.S. companies producing worldwide, global network suppliers, ripple effects towards from any crisis. Yeah. Well, you can always change your country. You don't like the country you're in, you just change it, produce in another country. So. All right, so that's my spiel for this week. Let me talk about assignment number 1, because a lot of people now, second week of class, you're starting to thinking about, maybe I should be doing something. Not a bad idea. So let's see. I have populated the EMS. So the EMS, for brand new people, you'll need to get access if you don't have access yet. If you still have problems getting access to the EMS, contact tech support, TECH support at itu.edu, and you can get access to the EMS. Believe it or not, there's some people who don't have access yet, which is why I'm mentioning that. That's where you need to upload everything. So although you can download everything from here, you have to upload your stuff in there. And if you go into the EMS, it kind of looks like, let's take a look here. EMS not available. Maybe because of the WWs. Let me take the WWs out of there. Oh, EMS available. My EMS is going to look different than yours. If you go into engineering management here, the grade book is already set up for you. Yours is going to look a little different than this. But the reason why I'm opening this up is to show you that all of the due dates are set at August 22nd. That's correct. August 22nd. I know it's several months from now. However, I would not wait, huh? There are many items on the to-do list. If you wait until August 21st to start, you're going to be in trouble. So what you want to do then is start like soon, like within the next couple weeks or so. What I would do is assignment number 1, assignment number 2, assignment number 3. And then I'd start in with the case studies. There's 4 different case studies. There's also a midterm exam that is not available yet. There's also a CSLOS 8 not available yet. I didn't put that up there on purpose because I want you to, I don't know how far I'm going to get through before the midterm. I want you to do it around the midterm, so I'll let you know around the midterm when that happens. The final exam is an in-class final exam, if you remember correctly. So it'll be multiple choice. Don't stress out if you have test anxiety. It won't be too bad. It's only 25 points. It's not that big of a deal. Majority of the work, 75% of the class is take home. Even the midterms take home. So let me give you a few expectations because some people want to start working on stuff and I highly recommend doing that. So as I go through the course, I will generally give you some feedback and some expectations on the assignments as we go through. So what I want to do is kind of orient you to assignment number 1. So if you go into the assignment sections, you can also get this from the EMS, but this is easier, in my opinion. I don't know, it may not be, but it's easier for me to get to it this way. It's just clear. Everything is due on August 22nd. Was that a joke? Oh, it's all submitted separately as separate assignment submissions. However, you guys are all adults. Well, most of you are. So I'm thinking, and you probably have jobs and you have lives and you have other classes and stuff. If I gave you a due date, half of you are going to be late on it anyway. So you come up with your own due dates. All of it has to be turned in before August 22nd. And I will warn you ahead of time. If you wait until August 21st or August 22nd, and you've done all the work, let's say you did all the work, but you wait to submit it until then, you're not going to be able to submit it. The system goes down. You'll be up all night trying to figure out how to get it in because the system, you're getting this 505, can't connect error, you're getting this error, you're getting that error, because everybody else is doing the same thing. So I'm going to go over that right now for you. That's what I'm doing. So here's homework assignment number 1. This is one of the easiest ones. So today I'm going to go over homework assignment number 1, and next week probably homework assignment number 2, maybe the week after that. So as I go through them, if you want to keep yourself on pace, I'm giving you the recommended pace. Right now you can do number 1. What's number 1 about? You're going to choose an article related to the topic of software engineering, information systems, information technology, or engineering management. Used for a business or at a business. So it's wide range. The purpose of this assignment is to orient you to the concept of what is engineering management, or if you don't like that concept, software engineering, all of this stuff overlaps. Information technology, engineering management, all used together. It's all overlapping. So let's see, what we want is a article related to the topic. Do not pull it from Wikipedia. Pull it from a reliable source. So what's this going to do? It's going to have you out there searching for engineering management topics. So we're looking for a topic. The article can be from any format. So an online or printed magazine, online or printed newspaper, a blog, a book chapter, a video, an audio podcast, a transcript. It could be anything. So you're finding something on a topic. So let's take, for example, a no-brainer here, blog. You can find someone's blog on something having to do with information technology, or engineering management, or software engineering. Kind of overlaps a little bit. You can go on the software. If you wanted to put hardware engineering, you could put that in there too. Engineering-ish, information technology. And the blog was on, let's say for example, it was on international outsourcing of Java programming or something. I don't know. Maybe it was a blog of the life and times of a Java programmer who lives in India or something. Actually, you guys have it made because you probably have contacts already of different things that you can probably find for outsourcing if you were picking that topic. You don't have to pick that topic. Or let's say you found something on outsourcing toys. You say, well, you know what she was saying about toys is kind of interesting. Let me research toy manufacturing. How are toys manufactured? And you found a magazine article or something. So it can be an article, it can be a blog, it can be a newspaper, it can be one chapter of a book, it can be an entire book, any source. But she should be from a creditable source and reasonable length, at least 1,000 words, 10-minute presentation. You can listen. If you don't like reading, you can listen to an audio or video. You can go on YouTube, find a nice little 10-minute or longer presentation on some information system technology or engineering management, software engineering kind of topic. So you want to do is provide a full citation of the article using APA style. Okay, so if you know the APA style, great. If you know Little Brown Book, great. If you know MLA, great. If you don't know any of these, go to the internet to apa.org. Let me show you. Let's just do here. I'll just go here, www.apa.org. apa.org. American Psychological Association is what APA stands for. It's a writing format used in a lot of engineering and business schools. Some people also use MLA, and I think it's probably going to, let's see if it's MLA. I don't know what the, I'm more familiar with APA. Yep, MLA, Modern Language Association. If you can use MLA if you want, or APA. What I want you to do is just give me a reference citation. So what does that mean? Let me show you what a reference citation looks like. Oh, and now is the time that the internet's not going to work for me. Oh, here it goes. Reference citation in APA. Oops, I found it right here, APA format. Here's Purdue's APA guide. Let's see. In-text, no. Let's just do one for a book here. Here's a reference citation right here. It's giving me the author. Actually, APA used to be the author's last name, comma, first name, year of publication, title. I just want to have the information. Where did you get the source? If there's also a reference citation for an internet source, that's not just the URL. it tells me what date you found it. So, in fact, if I go this way here and watch this, I'll just search it for a format for internet source. Here it is. See, here's the URL. It is part of it. This is retrieved from. It's kind of small. You can't see it on the page here, but well, maybe you can. There we go. Make it a little bit bigger. Well, that's really big. So you see it's down here. It says retrieved from. Here's the URL, but it also has the other information on there too. It's not just the source. So when you give me the source, just don't give me a cut and paste hyperlink, because then I have no idea what you're talking about. And what if the link goes away? If you give me what it was, I probably could find it some other source versus just the link, because I might be curious in looking at the link to see what it is that you found. So that's the first one here. And the second one is write a brief abstract of the article. So 250 words. It's like a book report. So it includes a description of the topic, main points, supporting evidence, conclusion. End it with your own reaction to the article in terms of its credibility, its usefulness, and application and implications. Critique it. So it's sort of a book report plus your, after you've read the article, you might have some comments to make on it. So it might be, I think this blogger is totally out of touch with reality. You know, he has never been to this country because he has no idea what he's talking about. Yada, yada, yada. It could be negative, it could be positive, it could be a good review, a bad review. It might be, hey, you know, this is really, I found this to be interesting, yada, yada. But tell me what it is first. So describe it a little bit, brief abstract of the article. Don't cut and paste the abstract of any article. No, I tell you, I've had students do this. Write it in your own words. No two students are going to find the same article. No two students are going to write the same abstract of the article. It will be plagiarized checked. So write it in your own words. So you guys are all international students, so it gives you an opportunity to improve your writing skills. So use this as an opportunity. You're not going to be graded on your spelling or your punctuation or your ability to write. So go out on a limb and experiment and practice your writing skills. Write it yourself. And at the same time, find something interesting, hopefully that you like. And then I'm not going to count the 250 words. It can be longer than that. It can be slightly shorter than that. More than 50 words. More than 100 words. Somewhere between 150 to 250 is reasonable. That's a couple paragraphs. That's like less than a page. So you may write more on it if you want as well. So if you get a little long-winded on it, it doesn't matter. Keep it like that too. Questions about assignment number 1. So if you're bored and you want to do something, you think you're going to, so you can do it in a Microsoft Word file, or do it in a any type of word processing file. Upload the file. Don't cut and paste and stick it in there. Upload it as a file attachment. It's a little easier that way. You don't have to zip it. You don't have to have more than one file. I don't need the article either. That's why you're giving me the reference to the article. And you can put the reference underneath the article if you want. You can put it at the top of the article. Doesn't really matter. And the format is not, you're not being graded on the format. Questions on assignment number 1? No? You guys, oh, you still reading something? You can download this. Oh. Yes? Now we have questions. Okay, that's good.
So this article, for example, most of us will have worked in some companies.
Uh-huh.
Can we get from that? But
Yep.
we cannot provide the source because that has to be confidential. For example, I have worked in some company.
Don't use something that's confidential.
Not really.
Oh.
Not really confidential. I won't use the name of the company, but 99% of the practices of maximum companies are same.
Yeah.
So if I have a document.
Well, then go XYZ company to remain confidential. Yeah, just put confidential on it. It's gonna it'll be hard for me to look at the original, but try to use something that's not proprietary, confidential. So, you know, lots of companies don't want you to do that anyway. You get in trouble anyway. So. Good question. Any other questions?
Can we use multiple references like?
Oh yeah. Actually, you know, if you go to the blogs, you're going to see multiple blog entries. If you find a blog, or if you find, sometimes you find audio clips, you get like 2 or 3 different clips, or like a couple minutes each or something. You can use like a series of clips, or a series of blogs, or a series of something.
So we need to mention whatever references we had.
That's why I want you to mention what it is, so I know what it is you're looking, what it is you're talking about. So if you put like Joe Schmo's blog on something or other from 1995, and here's his URL. If I'm curious, I can go look at it and see what it is. But for the most part, it also tells me what it is. It's a blog. It's an audio clip. It's a this. It's a that kind of thing. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
Besides the abstract of the article, how many words we should use?
Approximately 250 words.
I mean, the end with your own reaction to the article.
So you read a brief abstract of the article. You know, this article is about yada yada yada, including a description of the topic, the main points of supporting evidence, and the conclusion. Then at the end it with your own reaction to the article. The whole thing only has to be 250. Yeah. So the abstract plus your concluding comments. Your concluding comments can only be, or don't have to be that long. It can be like a couple of sentences. Or some people might take the opposite approach. They might have, this was about outsourcing in Japan. And then like all of it's their opinion about outsourcing in Japan. That's okay too. So it's very wide open.
How many words is
250 words?
for own reaction? For our own reaction?
Excuse me? Oh, for your own reaction, it doesn't matter how many words.
Just one sentence.
One sentence is okay. Or you could put two words. Good article. But if you're putting 2 words, good article, the rest of it has to be abstract of the article. If you don't want to write that much on the article, then you write more of your own personal opinion. But give me approximately 250 words total. It's flexible. All right, anything else? If not, we're done for today, but you stick around for attendance. You have to sign the attendance roster. Okay. So I don't know what we're doing next week. I think we're doing competitive forces next week, if I remember this right. So.